The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon, welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Text, call, email and certainly WhatsApp as well. Same number for text and WhatsApp, it's 166 177. If you're WhatsApping, you'll need us in your contacts. 66 13 68 between now and 1 o'clock. I got a message in from Richie who says, Andy, regarding the wind farm in the south of the Isle of Man, that's the onshore one, the proposed landing ramp at Castletown for importing Eristane material is actually to be sited at Langness. This is Richie telling us this, an historic area of outstanding natural beauty and an SSSI. As per the official notice to mariners issued recently informing trials taking place there. So is this true? Will this drive a coach and horses through the UNESCO biosphere? We haven't heard much from the biosphere people about what the proposed wind farms, be they north or south, and obviously the one that's preferred at the moment is the south. But nothing's really been said. Kroger have always told us that if the gas is to be taken from underneath the bed off Mackall, that won't affect our UNESCO biosphere status. And certainly for the offshore wind farm, we haven't heard anything from the biosphere people. Now, we're very kind of jealously protect our biosphere status. World-leading UNESCO biosphere, the only place where an entire jurisdiction is a biosphere. So it might be nice to find out more about that. But first, Howard's on now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. I was just listening to your news there, and I heard it earlier on about the cancellation or putting back of the demolition of the Strathallan Terrace.
Yes.
And I'm curious how suddenly, when people start to object to these things, the public, that suddenly they have a change of mind, and it is now repairable.
Well, they say they've had a new structural survey.
Yes. Well, who done the first one? And he should be moved sideways to work on the road somewhere if he's with the DOI. But what concerns me, and I said to Chris, this was an easy way out. That was a simple answer to a relevant question. The review on the heritage, is that going to move on the same pattern where somebody in government, DOI in particular, says, well, that's going to cost us money, let's get rid of that. And that's what was the accent was in the tramway place down there. Just knock it down and just tarmac it over or put a bit of gravel down and call it a car park. But again, they would have to protect the side of what was the Crescent Hotel, because that would expose that all. And that seems to be a fairly simple answer to a lot of the government's questions or curios. Park Road School, Domain Road School, all just knock them down. And that's not the answer to. As we said yesterday, the heritage on the island is very important. You're not going to get the bucket and spade job now, so you've got to move on to pastures new. And the heritage, which is relevant, very relevant in the UK, I know you've got a distance to travel to come to the Isle of Man, but we've got everything. You can see it all within a very short period of time.
And I think as well, Howard, our visitors, and I get this from people who I kind of show around the Isle of Man, they love the fact it's different. And they love the fact that we've got things you can't get anywhere else in the British Isles.
Well, railways, steam railways in particular, are very, very popular in the UK. And here we are with our tribe in the DOI, looking, and it is, I filled in that questionnaire and I've got a reply back from them, and I kept a copy of it. But there was only about 1.5 pages relevant to the heritage. The rest was all connected with what the the future plans for the DOI and the various sections of the DOI. It wasn't relative to the heritage centre. So it was a leading question. It was put in there to spread to catch a mackerel. And this is what they'd done. They caught a lot of mackerels, myself included, and the object of it is to reduce everything that they've got to pay for. Look, the perfect example was the airport, where they put it down to privatisation and wrecked it. I worked down there for a long time, and it was like a big family. Now, it's like a family in dispute. There's the private side of it has got to the point where they're penny pinching on everything, and it doesn't lead to a good working conditions at all. But that's another story. But why would suddenly they turn around Strathallan Terrace, and it stood there for many years, and the post office used to be there at one time, just down the bottom of just where you come out of the tramways. What was the idea of knocking it down, and why have they a sudden change of mind? As I say, it's a simple question to a very relative, a simple answer to a relative question, and that's where the DOI is their answer to everything. If we don't want it like that, and we don't want to pay for it, get rid of it.
Well, you can tell me this, and you can answer, because obviously I know you're a volunteer at the Camera Obscura with the Victorian Society. Mm-hmm. And again, there are only half a dozen of those, I think, throughout the UK.
Yeah.
And what do people say? When they, first of all, people who've never seen a Camera Obscura, some people who are familiar with it, what do people say when they go inside the Camera Obscura? How do they react?
They are amazed. And our little book tells us that we have people from all over the world, not coming just for that, but we log down where the people have come from. And they are quite literally from all over the world. And if I'm up there, in lots of instances where people have a genuine interest in the building and the workings of it, I'll take them into the lens room and show them how it works, and they're fascinated. And of recent, when I was up there one day, the lady that used to own it, Mrs. Heaton, I think it was a grandson or son, he turned up. And there are still bits in that building that lady used to own. Only tiny things, trivial things, but that is part of the history of the building. And the lenses, the actual lenses themselves, they're still the original lenses. And that building now and the unit is about 130 years old. So the Victorians knew how to build things, but we don't know how to look after them now.
All right.
But that there, if you go into that building, it is superb, and it's so simple, yet the pictures, I've known people to go inside there and take photographs on the screens, and the clarity of the pictures is so good you'd think they'd been taken outside.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Howard.
Okay, take care.
Good to hear from you. And David's with us now on Mannin Line. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just want to give some bouquets out to my MHK, anyway, in Onken, is Rob Collister. He's taken on a challenge of planning, and yesterday when they asked for extra scrutiny on the assisting dying bill, it was great. As far as I'm concerned, legislations like that I call nuclear legislation, because you press the green button or the red button. And if you press the red button or the wrong button and legislation is wrong and people take advantage of it, you'd only live once, don't you?
Well, I mean, somebody once said to me, it's like launching a ship. You'll never know how the ship's going to sail until it actually takes to the water. And it's the same with legislation. Everything's prepared prior to the event. The people who draft the legislation put it together. The politicians debate and what have you. But nobody knows what's really going to happen until it becomes a law.
That's right. And there are questions to be asked regarding insurance. Time being on the island, that's another thing too. I don't want to see the Isle of Man as somewhere where you come to die, and that's probably cruel from me, but at the end of the day, I know people who are 95, 92, and they have a great life. And I was talking to a lady recently, I won't mention her name, but she's looking forward to spring, then summer, to get out round the island. And that's what I want with people as well. You know, I do feel for people who are, medically things are wrong, and life's not that desperate in the Isle of Man to do something dramatically when you don't want to do it. But the other thing I wanted to put down too is, where's Jeff Robinson gone with the camper bill? About all these camper vans that's still lying about. In Onken now, we must have about 10 of them. I feel sorry for these people who have these huge camper vans. Some of them are nice. Some of them are absolutely what to go to the graveyard in the sky and be towed away. And when the former guy down there, I forgot his name now, that used to be in the DOI, he used to send the guys out from the vehicle testing centre to have these vehicles examined to see if they were fit for the road. And I'm not getting at camper van people. It's just that where they're parked, they're really unneighbourly to people. And one by Onken School there, that's been there, monitored. It's been 3 or 4 months there, stuck there, and stopping legitimate parents picking up and dropping kids in a safety zone.
Well, I mean, I've had conversations and communication from campervan motorhome owners. I'll be honest with you, the vast majority of motorhome owners are sick of poor motorhome owners, the people who let the side down. Yeah. And I just wonder why. And I know Mr. Krugel's he has got a lot on his plate, whether you like it or not. And at least he's making some decisions now. He's sifting through them. He may have been led down a road, we've got to do this. But he can sit there and have judgment, independent judgment, because he's living in Peel as well, I suppose, and say, no, we're not doing that. Or do we have to do that? Or take more advice, take a second opinion. But listen, when the vehicle testing centre used to be, they're active, they've got enough to do anyway, but they should be going out and looking at some of these vehicles that we've got on the island, which are older. I would say they're from the 60s or 70 years old. Well, not years old, but they buy them for about $5,000 or $4,000 and think that a holiday home. They're not. They're causing issues around the island, and it's not just Onken. I've been talking to people in Ramsey and all over, down south, Ballasella way. But what's happened with it? Why hasn't Mr. Robinson come back out and said, A, we got it wrong, or B, we want to have more consultation? Okay.
And get things...
All right, thanks for that. Good to hear from you. 19 minutes past 12, and Wilf's with us. Hi, Wilf.
Hi, there's a couple of things today, but it's to do with yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
Many, many years ago, I did 3 or 4 skips down a very old farm down by Mary Veg. It might be actually the site. I've never been to Mary Veg, so it might be the site of Mary Veg now. I don't know. It might have got knocked down. The old people were going out of it, and they're getting rid of stuff. But in one of these skips, I picked out a big glass case about 3 foot long, and it had inside the model of a ship. And the front glass was broken. It was very dusty inside. But I took it home and dusted it off and looked inside. And what it was a sister ship. It was a diorama. Now, you know what a diorama is?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Right. Well, for the people that don't know, it's a half ship, and the makers of the ship presented them to officials and what have you, who was to do with the ship. Now then, what it was, I was looking at this and I thought, I recognize this view that it's in. And it was Ramsey Bay. And I dusted it off, and on the flag on this thing, it was all fully rigged, and I'd be very careful. And it said, the Ramsey. Now, the Ramsey was the sister ship to the Euterpe.
To the Star of India.
To the Star of India, yeah. And that was the oil-carrying ship. And she went down a number of years after. She'd done lots of trips to America and roundabout, and she the same trips as the Star of India. And eventually she was sunk in a storm and disappeared, gone forever. So it's a bit of useless or useful information, whatever you think. But that was the actual ship that carried the oil. That was the oil tanker.
And do you remember where was this place you got the diorama?
No, it was a farm, a very old farm, and it was. I think it might have been very near Maryveg site. They might have knocked it down, I don't know, and made Maryveg site. I've never been to Maryveg site since. I've never been down there since. So it was a very old farm. There were old people that was in it, and I don't know whether they going and giving up and going to live in town in a bungalow or something or whatever. I don't know. But that's where it came from. Anyway, I had a friend. There's one of these early computers. This is a long time ago. And I said, can you get on your computer to talk to the people who has the Star of India in America? And he said, yes, we can do that. Anyway, we got in touch with them, or he got in touch with them. And I was going to offer it to them, give it to them, you see, if they could just get it over there somehow. Anyway, it didn't happen. They never got back to us for some reason. I don't know what it was. So I stuck it in the local mart. And I can't remember now. I think it was either 9,500 or 1,100 it made. I sold it, made good money out of it. Anyway, that's that story.
I wonder who's got that now.
I don't know. Possibly if you ask Mr. Keith, who is still running that mart, that's Crystal's Mart, he may go back in his books and tell you where it went. Now, we're talking about a long time ago. We're talking about probably 30 years ago.
Right, and this is when the mart was in Ramsey.
No, this is when the mart moved to Onken.
Oh, right, yeah.
And went on the cliff face there, the big place that was knocked down, and they built a lot of houses on the site. Yeah. When they were there. And the other thing that was mentioned yesterday was Vikings. Now, I think that we are the only place in the world that celebrated getting beat up by the Vikings. I might be wrong. I don't. But I think we're the only place. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was we've all heard of the Black Dog in Peel, and nobody seems to know any truths or anything about it. It was a myth. You seen the ghost of the Black Dog, and I don't know what happened to you then. You dropped dead or whatever it was. But I read an old book on Vikings, and it says in this book that the first thing, or the normal thing they did when they landed on a beach, they had these vicious dogs, and they're always black, and they were big, and they sent them ahead of them first. They sent them ahead of the warriors, and they did all sorts of nasty things before they had to fight. So I'm just wondering, I'm thinking that's where the Black Dog myth came from in Peel.
My word.
I'm full of useful information, or useless information, whichever you like the way you put it.
I just want to track down this diorama. I'd love to know where that went.
Well, there you go. You'd have to get hold of Mr. Keefe. He was the man that sold it, and he's still in business, and he's still doing crystal auctions.
I'm sure Murray's glued to his radio now.
Well, possibly. You never know.
All right. Thanks, Wilf.
Okay.
All right. 12. Julian joins us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Yeah, very interesting, all that. I thought Howard and David and Wilf were not boring at all.
Oh, it's all... I love the way the French say I'm bored. It's a reflexive noun. I bore myself. Nothing's boring in this world.
Exactly. And staying on a nautical theme after Wilf's very interesting story, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority has issued a safety bulletin titled DCV, so David Charlie Victor 02/2023, Risks Associated with the Carriage of Battery Electric Vehicles. This safety bulletin is based on Australian Marine Order 504. A risk assessment for vessels must be conducted to ensure that risks arising from the carriage of battery electric vehicles are addressed. Some risks associated with battery electric vehicle fires on board domestic commercial vessels include high voltage shocks, direct jet flames, Fires develop in intensity, quickly and rapidly reach their maximum intensity, typically within 2 to 3 minutes. Toxic gases and the attendant gas explosion if the released battery gas accumulates in a confined space. Long-lasting reignition risk can ignite or reignite weeks or maybe months after the provoking incident. Once established, fires are difficult to stop and extinguish, and thermal runaway. Other considerations, recommendations. Battery electric vehicles are around 25% heavier than internal combustion engine vehicles and should be considered when stowing vehicles to maintain vessel stability. Battery electric vehicles tend to have a lower ground clearance, making them more prone to damage from ramps. Closed-circuit TVs with thermal imaging is recommended in all car decks, along with portable thermal imaging cameras carried by staff on safety rounds. Specific recommendations include a marking system for electric vehicles should be instituted, install procedures to verify if electric vehicles' battery management alarm system is active. Electric vehicles should be parked to allow direct access by emergency staff. Position electric vehicles considering access to emergency services from shore and evacuation pathways. Consideration for battery gas build-up in enclosed car decks. The master should maneuver the vessel to control flow of toxic smoke and gases. Only crew with specialist training and equipment should approach an EV fire. Vessel operators should consult with local emergency services to establish coordinated procedures at both ports. So there's a mouthful.
Okay, and what do you deduce from all that? Where do you think the future lies?
Well, I think it might be interesting for somebody from the steam packet to come on and actually say of any of those things being instituted at the moment, because whenever I'm on the boat, EVs seem to be parked willy-nilly all over the place.
Interestingly enough as well, we got sent in a photo a while back of 4 ambulances that were just by the boat, and we're just wondering whether Manx Care or the ambulance service has taken delivery of electric vehicles, electric ambulances.
Yeah. Interesting. And it is interesting to note, I think, that the Manxman has a hybrid system for propulsion. I'm not sure if it's only on the bow thrusters, but there must be a serious amount of battery, probably lithium-ion on board there as well. I think it's called the LLP system or something that Wärtsilä supply when they put the engines into. I believe I think there's 4 Wärtsilä, an 8-cylinder and a 10-cylinder, 2 of each of those on board. Also, just quickly interesting before I go, an interesting video, 3 videos actually. They can be seen on a YouTube channel. There's 2 guys who are car sellers, but they seem to have become quite popular on YouTube. The one that's easier to see is Jeff, spelled Geoff, buys cars. And they did an interesting trip from John O'Groat to Land's End. With a stop in Kendal roughly halfway at 416 miles. What was interesting was that there was an additional over 6 hours of charging for the Taycan, plus another 3 hours and 23 minutes of looking around for functional charges, which meant that totally he spent 9 hours and 23 minutes effectively filling up. This was a Porsche Taycan electric vehicle. This was by the McMaster, his name is. And Jeff had an old £2,500 2003 BMW 320 diesel. The cost of the diesel for the trip was £107.84, 107. The cost of charging the Taycan was £259.
How?
Which means the BMW could have done the return trip and saved £45.
How did it cost that much in charging?
It's expensive charging, and also when he was in one particular area, there were no functional charges, so he was forced to go to a Porsche dealership to charge up at a higher rate so that he could make it to his next accommodation. He also commented that when they did this a couple of weeks ago, you remember the weather was absolutely terrible. When he was looking around for a functional charger, there were no canopies over the chargers, so he got absolutely soaked. It also found that when they priced up the Taycan, it had lost over 4,000 quid just on that trip, based on 3 different price comparison websites, which was quite an expensive depreciation over the time. And he said with the range anxiety and the costs and everything else, he described it as an absolute nightmare trying to do long distances, even in a £120,000 Porsche Taycan electric vehicle.
Interesting. All right. Oh, thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Andy.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. And Sarah's with us now on Mannin Line. Hi, Sarah.
Oh, good afternoon, Andy. I'm ringing up. I was listening to Wilf. I actually know him. I know his daughters, etc. And he was talking about the Star of India diorama. Now, I'm not really sure what a diorama is.
It's a diorama is basically a 3D thing. So it's like something in a glass cage, and it'll be 3D.
Well, I can help you then, because I always used to go to what I now call the old Harbour Bistro in Ramsey. It is now, Ken, who ran it, he just went like we all did in COVID, and when it reopened, it became the new Harbour Bistro. I've never been back since before COVID, but I'd gone for many years, and the last time I went, which was, I think, 2019, the Star of India was in this huge glass case. It was, a model, absolutely stunning, and it used to sit in the restaurant, and it was on the wall, and it was pretty big, and sometimes Ken would put us under it on the table, and I used to be concerned it might fall on me, but it was the most amazing, beautiful thing, and it was still there in 2019.
So that was in the old Harbour Bistro?
The old Harbour Bistro in Ramsey,
right.
Yes, and I never knew what Ken's surname was, but he was Ken, and it was a very family-run business. But that Star of India was in there for as long as I can remember.
I wonder where that is now. I wonder if anybody can tell us.
I thought I'd phone you about that, because I also have another little tidbit if you want to know.
By all means.
Right, this is to go. I watched a programme many years ago, about 5, called Ghost Adventures, and it was set in San Diego with the Ghost Adventure team, and they were on the Star of India. The first shot showed our national flag, which, I sat up and thought, I must watch this. And the program is an hour long, and they investigate ghostly goings-on. And some of the ones they investigated were actually Manx.
Really?
People. Yes. I mean, it's only a program. I'm not saying it's haunted. But it was very interesting, and it was very authentic. And they talked about Ramsey and everything. And in fact, the chap, I can't remember his name is, but one of the men that are in this program is called Aaron. And one of the things they really wanted to do was come to the Isle of Man and Ramsey.
Oh, well, I wonder if anybody can spot that, if that's anywhere to be had on YouTube or on Catch-Up anywhere. That'd be great.
I don't go into huge depths about these things. I do take that with a pinch of salt, but it was fascinating. But it would be nice if someone would come forward, because that thing that Wilf's on about was in the old Harbour Bistro.
And what about the toilets, Sarah?
Right, well, I've been wanting to ring, but I'm quite a shy person, and I only ring if I know something. I don't come on and hark on, I don't really know what I'm on about. I've been going to Shoprite in Peel, and they had inside toilets, and they were fine. You could go in whenever you felt like it. And then suddenly Subway took the key on, and you had to go and ask for the key, which I found a bit embarrassing, to be honest. I'm quite elderly, and I do have to go to the loo. I'll be quite frank. For one reason or another, I went to the Shoprite in Ramsey, and I went round the corner where they kept the outside loos, which were run by the commissioners. They were all locked. It was locked. You couldn't even use... I have a radar key for the disabled toilets. You couldn't even use one of those. I went in and they said, no, they're closed. They will never reopen because of the vandalism. Well, I got cut. Halfway through my shop, Andy, I had to get back into my car with crutches and drive across with my husband and my disabled son to the old swimming pool, and went to the loos there, and then come back and finish my shop. Now, as Tesco's is taking over, I hope they're listening, because we need our toilets back, and it would be very nice if they could sort of put them inside the building, as unless we have toilets back there, people like me aren't ever going to be able to go again.
Sarah, the problem is always, as you say, I mean, I'm sorry to use these words, but the problems are perverts and vandals.
I know.
And everybody else has to lose out because of this. The people who use toilets for immoral purposes, or people who vandalise toilets, ruin it for everybody. And I know. You know, and this isn't funny. Some people take the mickey out of me talking about toilets. It's not funny. You know, this is a civilised human need, and any civilised society should have enough public toilets, beginning and end of.
Well, in the big Tesco's, you know, down Lake Road, there's always... I haven't been because I've been off my legs for 2 years, and then the COVID as well. But there was always a gentleman in the inside of Tesco's. He had headphones on, and he would watch people coming in and going out. And I cannot see why we can't have that in other places. You know, surely, if they're inside the building... surely to goodness, you know, we can do something like have a radar key system so that people like me, because it does become really dire for me. I can't even go out anymore now. I can only go out late afternoon and not have a drink or anything. And I'm really angry about it. And I'm not alone. We're all getting older, and we're human beings. We need to go to the loo.
Okay, all right, Sarah.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope someone can find that beautiful thing.
I do hope so. Maybe somebody, maybe Ken or anybody else who's listening.
Well, I hope so. He's got sisters and a brother. I don't know whatever happened to them. They were lovely people, and that they had actually other things in glass cases of other old ships. It might even be one of the Jane. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Bye then.
Good to hear from you. 21 minutes before 1.
Drive smarter. Drive more reliable. Drive a great deal at Mannin Motors. With a superb range of cars for every budget, always available. And if we don't have it, we'll source it. Plus, servicing, valeting, and prestige detailing too. Mannin Motors, Richmond Hill, Douglas. Find us on Facebook or call 420 420. That's 420 420. Drive a better bargain at Mannin Motors.
The Isle of Man is an island like no other, with so much to experience this autumn and winter right on your doorstep. Discover exciting activities, attractions, accommodation and food at discounted rates at visitisleofman.com/OYD23.
There's a new way to Subway with 2 fantastic menus. Which will you go for? The all-new Subway series with 15 irresistible creations like the Big Bombay Sub, Great Goddess Salad, Emperor Wrap and Big Cheesesteak Sub Melt. Or create your own. You pick the ingredients you want and build your own sub, salad or wrap the way you want it. There's a great mix of healthy and indulgent menu items available from Subway and Shoprite Port Erin.
It's good to talk. It's how we get things done. So when you apply for a personal loan from Black Horse, you'll get support from one of our relationship managers who's there to talk you through your application. You could borrow up to £50,000 with up to 7 years to pay it back, and you could receive your money within 24 hours of approval. Ready to talk? Go to blackhorseoffshore.co.uk to request a call back today. Finance subject to status. Applicants must be 18 or over.
Jump aboard the time train and take a trip back to the 1960s on Carnaby Street every Saturday morning at 8:30 with Isle of Man Railways. It's full of 60s hits and memories. On board the time train, Gladys the tea lady.
Right, boys.
Harry the driver.
Hello, crispy old mate.
Roger the fireman.
All aboard Isle of Man Railways time train.
Oh, and Raffles the dog. And of course you and me. You can win tickets for 2 for one of the Isle of Man Railways fantastic dining car experiences. Carnaby Street, 8:30 8:30 on Manx Radio, on AM, FM, online, on smart speakers and all over the world at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Viv as well. Hi, Viv.
Hiya. Just to tell you, there are toilets inside the town hall and there's disabled toilet downstairs.
Where about? Which town hall?
Ramsey Town Hall.
In Ramsey Town? Oh, on the ground floor. They're at the back, aren't they, by the police station?
No, there's a disabled one by the main office, you know, where the clerks are.
Right.
And then upstairs, there's a ladies and a gents upstairs.
And of course, there is a lift, isn't there, that takes you up there as well? Yeah.
Yes, but for that disabled lady, the disabled one is downstairs.
Okay. There we are. All right, that's great.
But
Thanks.
I have to agree with that. There is a shortage of public toilets in Ramsey.
I'm trying to think whereabouts are they? Down the bottom end of Parliament Street. Where are they? There. Oh, the old swimming pool ones are there, aren't they?
Behind the bowling alley, there's new toilets there.
Yeah.
And somebody said one of the ones in the quays that we always used to think were just gents has been turned into a ladies and gents, but I'm not quite sure on that. And I don't know whether there's any still at the tram station.
And certainly none on the Murrock side, is there? I mean, there's nothing that end. You got some in the park.
Yes, in the park, but no, there's nothing over there. Nothing.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Viv.
Unless you go into the new swimming pool, there's toilets there.
Of course. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Viv.
That's all right.
Good to hear from you. 17 minutes before 1 on Manx Radio is Godfrey. Hello, Godfrey. Just says, can you stop slagging off electric vehicles? I'm not. We're just trying to get to the bottom of what would happen. And also the question being, have we bought electric ambulances? 4 very brand new ambulances we spotted on the quayside a while back. Are they have we bought electric Now, they're not cheap. Well, they're certainly a lot more expensive than ordinary ambulances, but we'll find out as well. And also, Ford, the Ford Motor Company in America, have warned that their EV business is going to generate losses of $4.5 billion this year compared to prior guidance, which was $3 billion. So they're 50% higher losses than they were projecting. The company cited increased costs related to new product development and production capacity expansion. I mean, I'd love somebody to explain to me how the secondary market for electric vehicles is going to work, because the market for vehicles, be they private or commercial, always relies on a very healthy second-hand, pre-owned, pre-loved market. So how is that second market going to work? And there's also a question that electric vehicles are only for very rich people. Now, is that a fallacy or is it true? Electric vehicles cost a lot of money. And if you're lower down the income scale, if you're, more C and D than A and B, then can you afford to buy an electric vehicle? What's going to happen? What will be the purchase models? Will it be lease? Will it be rent to buy? Will you have to buy? What is going to happen? If you can tell me, I'd love to hear from you. Talks about Orsted's agreement with the Manx government prior to submitting planning applications. This is the Orsted offshore wind farm. The planning applications are expected to be submitted in early 2025. The Orsted development director is John Galloway.
So what we have is an agreement for lease with the Isle of Man government, which we were granted in 2015. And in there are commercial terms around what we would pay as a rent every year during the operational lifetime of the wind farm. So the large-scale wind farm, which would be connected, say, to the UK, would generate a certain percentage, which would be directed to the Treasury, and that would be set out every year over the lifetime of the wind farm. We're working on the plans for the size and scale of the project. That's part of the design stage that we're in now, and once we have more detail on that next year, then we'll present some of the facts and figures around what the opportunity could look like.
Okay, John Galloway, this is the boss, the development director of Orsted and our offshore wind farm. Remember, Orsted renting our seabed, putting up their wind turbines, and us getting some money out of it. Is the Isle of Man's 2050 net zero target realistic? This is Orsted Development Director John Galloway.
It's really realistic. I mean, the 2050 target for net zero is aligned with the Paris Agreement, and the Isle of Man is now part of that via the UK's accession to that as well. And it aligns with the targets that the UK has, that other countries have, like Ireland and other countries across Europe. At the moment, we know the Isle of Man is really carbon intense per capita. It's got a lot of work to do in that direction. But with the opportunities there are with natural resources like the wind in our seas and on land, there's real opportunities to decarbonise really quickly. And I think the opportunity that the Isle of Man has, both economically but socially, is to make a major contribution as an island nation and show people how that journey can be made really quickly and be a pioneer.
All right, this is £4 billion, billion with a B, £4 billion project, operational as early as 2031, maybe 2032. So we're talking about 8, possibly 9 years if everything goes to plan. The wind farm off the coast of Mackle Head. So if you live east-facing around there, that's what you'll be seeing. There's a string of events happening later this month. Orsted are seeking suggestions, concerns. They want to hear from you about the idea of an offshore wind farm in Manx waters off Mackle. Now, John Galloway was asked if there were viable suggestions and constructive criticism that hadn't been thought about previously, whether this could be incorporated ahead of a planning application actually being submitted.
Absolutely. So our scoping report, which we've written and submitted to the government last month, is quite a detailed document. And the reason it's detailed is it's got all of these topics that we've already identified. But I'm very conscious that there may be many more topics which we might not have identified, or particular areas of concern that people want to raise. And the only way that we can properly address those when we come to designing this project and bringing it forward for planning, we hope to make that planning application early in 2025. In the time before then, to get that right and to satisfy as many people as we can that we've assessed these topics properly and mitigated the elements we can, is for people to bring them forward. So, the events are an opportunity to come in and speak to us and meet us and meet some of our experts who are supporting us as well on certain areas that might be of concern. But we also have launched through our information booklet the inbox for people to contact us.
If you want to meet them, the first meeting is a week on Monday in Laxey. If you want to meet Orsted and find out about this projected wind farm in our territorial waters and on our seabed, if you want to find out more about it, Monday the 20th, a week on Monday, Laxey Glen Pavilion. They'd love to see you there.
For a mouth-watering experience, take your taste buds along to the food cellar.
From breakfast to lunch, hot dishes to salads, soups and sandwiches to platters, the food cellar is the perfect place to meet colleagues, friends or family for a catch-up.
The food cellar, next to the wine cellar, on the milestone Peel Road, Douglas. Open Tuesday to Sunday from 9:30am. For full opening hours, see thefoodcellar.im.
Mike has got the conister feeling. Because despite his busy life, getting the finance to sort some home improvements was quicker and easier than he ever dreamt with Conister Bank.
You got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, yeah!
Ooh, and not even Conister can help improve his singing. Apply online today at conisterbank.co.im and you'll get the Conister feeling too. All loans are subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Early settlement fees apply.
Walk through the northern lights into a land of ice and snow at Ramsey Garden Centre. Indoor and outdoor lights, a magical range of real and artificial trees, decorations, gifts and much more. Christmas at Ramsey Garden Centre, Albert Road.
I began to struggle with the stairs, but I didn't want to leave our family home. So my daughter told me about Acorn Stair Lifts and their new showroom in Douglas. I was able to try the stair lifts and find the right one for me and the home I love. They were so friendly. The whole process was hassle-free and they offered the whole package from installation to servicing. Choose the island's first choice for stair lifts. Acorn Stair Lifts, South Quay, Douglas.
Call Acorn Stair Lifts now on 672 414 or call into our Douglas showroom.
Get ready for another winning weekend on Manx Radio.
Tell Skips are first choice for all your domestic or commercial skip needs. And this weekend, they're offering you the chance to win a £200 voucher to spend at 1886 Bar and Grill.
Visit manxradio.com and answer the competition question for your chance to win. You can enter as many times as you like.
And the winner will be picked on Manx Radio Breakfast on Monday morning.
Make this your winning weekend with your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
9 minutes before 1, we're still checking out whether we've got any electric ambulances on the Isle of Man. And a note in from Angela just says, Andy, I've been contacting Manx Radio to raise concerns of parking issues in Pulrose, which over the last 5 years has become a big problem for residents, especially residents who live around Heather Crescent, Pulrose Road by the park, Alder Road, Alder Grove, Oak Avenue, Elm Avenue, Springfield Road and Spring Valley. Now, residents have suggested on multiple occasions the area should be disc zoned. We've also stated that people are having trouble finding a parking space since the employees of Pulrose Church and the old police station are parking by the park, which is taking away parking spaces for residents. This particular area by the park has issues in the evenings of motorhomes and large vans parking in the area, which restricts the view of the road right next to a play park and school, making it dangerous as children possibly might run out behind or between large vehicles. That doesn't bear thinking about. Requiring permits for the road by the park could be useful, and other areas in Pulrose, many residents agree this is a growing problem and it's a headache for residents. Angela, what do your Douglas councillors think of all this? Have they got a policy for what's going to happen to parking in Pulrose? It just seems to be getting worse and worse. Of course, we could all have electric vehicles. That might solve it all, but I'm not joking. If there are problems with parking, particularly big vehicles, what do? We contacted the DOI recently after my mum, who's in a wheelchair, came into difficulties recently because she couldn't safely cross the road by the park in Pulrose due to the residents in the area blocking the dropped curbs. Blocking a dropped curb is illegal. Is it illegal? And we've been asking the DOI and the police to see if it's possible to increase patrols to deter dropped curb parking in the area, and if Douglas Council can send out letters to deter this. Now, not many people realise, says Charlotte, it's illegal to block a dropped curb, and how dangerous this can be for wheelchair users and anybody else, for whom the drop curbs therefore. I hope you can give this some coverage and see what's what. Thank you, Charlotte. Good to hear from you. We hear all the time that parking in Pulrose is getting more and more difficult. Maybe that's something we can. We'll try and get Douglas Council on Mannin Line just to see if we can chat about that and other things. Remember, this coming Thursday, tomorrow, the Thursday, the 9th of November, it's the Constabulary's Community Roadshow in Peel, QE2 High School, tomorrow, 6 through till 8. Crime Stoppers are going to be there. Department of Home Affairs and Justice will be there. The police will be there discussing what Crime Stoppers do. And as well, if you can volunteer, if you want to volunteer, if you want to help them, then by all means, do get in touch. If you want to meet your MHK this weekend, this coming Saturday, then there is it's going to be the 11th on Saturday. So Anne Corlett and Chris Thomas, Douglas Central MHKs, have got a drop-in session from 2 till 4 on Saturday at the All Saints Church Hall in Douglas. And also this Saturday, Alex Allinson and Laurie Hooper, the Ramsey MHKs, have got a session from 10 to midday, second Saturday of every month, and this Saturday is the second Saturday. They're upstairs in the coroner's office at the Ramsey Town Hall on Saturday from 10 till midday. And of course, your MHKs frequently have surgeries, and we'd like to tell you about them if you want to go and meet your MHKs. Also, something I'd like to bring to your attention, if you don't know about it, is that the Animal Welfare Bill of 2022. Now, this is the thing concerning e-collar bans for cats and dogs. These are electronic training collars, e-collars for cats and dogs. There's a 6-week consultation.
This is the Isle of Man talking, the Mannin Line.
And they want your feedback on this. Now, you have until the 23rd of this month. But I had a note in from Melanie, who said, Andy, not many people know about this. If you want a copy of the consultation, paper copies are available from DEFRA's headquarters in St John's, or you can call them on 685-844 or email agriculture@gov.im if you want a copy of this consultation on the use of electronic training collars for cats and dogs. Most e-collars use a warning sound to allow the animal to stop what it's doing before an electric pulse or unpleasant spray is generated as a deterrent. If you want to take part in that, by all means do. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
WINT